In Dallas defense, they let Anderson and Gurley run all over them. I mean, C.J. Anderson had 23 carries for 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gurley had 16 for 115 and then a touchdown. And then Dallas, on the reverse side, only gave Zeke the ball 20 times.
Interesting thing, too, that we're seeing in the playoffs this year is that it used to be defense wins you championships, and now defenses lose. The teams that had the better defenses going into this weekend, I think besides the Saints, they all lost. Colts had a pretty good D coming in. Your boys had a really good D this year.
Yep.
Chargers had a good defense this year.
Yeah.
And then the best 2 defenses lost last week.
Yeah, we do have the top
four, Seattle and Baltimore.
So we have the top 4 scoring offenses playing this weekend.
Yeah.
Which is like, these are the most political offenses ever. And usually when you are in the AFC or NFC championship games, usually you have one team that's really solid on defense.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have that. So it's going to be, are you going to outshoot them? But the playoffs, it's odd because in the playoffs, the scores are lower. And the Chiefs last week gave up the fewest points of any team. New Orleans was second with 14. So
I would have never thought that.
Right. If somebody would have said the Chiefs would have given up less points than the other 7 teams, you would have said, nah.
Yeah, if you would have said, hey, guess what? The Chiefs are going to win. Mahomes is not going to throw a touchdown, and the Chiefs' defense is going to step up big. I've been like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah. So, that's kind of our first 2 games, KC Indy, Dallas Rams. Then you have the Chargers at New England, which, I said last week on the show, I can't pick against Belichick and Brady at home in January.
Nope.
Just couldn't do it. And I feel like the Chargers were a hot team, and they came in, and Belichick and Brady do what they have done every year, and that's just shut that down in Foxborough Stadium and not lose.
Right.
And just not even not lose, but dominate.
Well,
I feel like they dominated that game from the opening to the close.
Oh, yeah. They ran the ball right down their throat. 7 minutes and an 11-second drive, which took literally...
That was the first drive, right?
That was the very first drive. It took literally the first quarter, half of the first quarter, and then they scored the touchdown. I mean, you had that defense who played well against Baltimore, but Lamar Jackson is not Tom Brady. Not even Patrick Mahomes is Tom Brady. There's a reason why they are in their 8th straight AFC championship game. You don't do that as a fluke. Now you may do it.
Those guys are really good.
The Jets did it a couple of times. That was a fluke.
Yeah.
With
Sanchez.
Yeah.
Butt fumble.
Mark Sanchez.
Right. But they've been doing this constantly since 2001.
Yeah. And you want to talk about a coach that's changed philosophies too. Belichick's done the same thing. Because Brady started off kind of a game manager. Pats were hardcore defense. Then you get to like 07, 08. All of a sudden they get Moss and they get Welker, and all of a sudden they're high flying. And then now this year, since Brady's arm isn't what it used to be, now they do a little dink and dunk all over the field. And like James White had 15 catches.
Right,
he tied Sproles for NFL record.
Like West Coast offense.
Yeah, just like super fast stuff, and they just the Chargers. It looked like they had no clue what was going on.
Right. Well, because they thought they could rush and get to Brady, and Brady threw it so fast that they couldn't reach to him. Whereas they got to Lamar Jackson last week, and that defense was really pressuring.
Yeah.
Now,
I think I said last week, I think Lamar Jackson is going to be a great player in this league for a long time for the future.
Yeah.
But he's not on that level yet. I mean, it was his first year. He started 8 games. 7 games,
something like that.
Yeah, I say like
something like that. Yeah,
not a lot of games this year. So,
but what I was impressed with is that they didn't pull him for Flacco.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Because I think if they would have pulled him, if Flacco would have came in, I think it would have made it even worse, and it wouldn't have been so close. I mean, they still had a shot at the end if it wasn't for that fumble that got slapped out of his hand.
Right.
If he would have taken him down the field, scored a touchdown, extra point. Baltimore is going to New England instead of the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I said that last week on the show that, they can teach him to take care of the ball.
Right.
That's something they can fix. I mean, that's a young guy mistake.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I feel good about Baltimore going into the future.
Yeah.
But, New England did handle the Chargers. You guys got anything else about that game before we move on to the final game of the weekend?
No. They just put a beating on them. That's
They did.
I
mean, so we had the Eagles at the Saints. We talked about last week. Nick Foles, Magic, winning a playoff game, and everybody's like, oh, man, are they going to keep this streak going? Well, the Saints, it looked early, Saints got down 14-0.
Right.
And so it looked like, oh, man, here Nick Foles goes again. He's going on this magical run.
Yep.
But the Saints, steady course, Drew Brees kept doing what they do, and, they end up coming back and winning that game 20-14. Great job by the Saints and their coaching staff just saying, you know what, hey, we're down 14, but the game plan is fine. We're going to keep riding this out. We're going to keep doing what we do, and we're going to come back and win this game.
Well, the thing of it was, the key play of the game was the penalty, where they could have it was a holding penalty, and the Eagles had stopped them. So instead of sending them back another 10 yards, having them redo third down, they just said, decline the penalty, fourth down. They did the fake, and they even somewhat planned for it. They still got the first down, and from then on, the Eagles were a totally different team.
Yeah, that fake punt was awesome.
Right, and then the Saints went on to win, but they never was really in control. It wasn't more of they were in control. It was more of Eagles was losing control. They couldn't move the ball anymore. Nick Foles' magic was eventually evaporating.
Right.
And then what happened was they squeaked by with a small victory. And I had picked, actually in the AFC I picked the Chiefs and the Patriots, but in the NFC I picked the Cowboys and the Eagles. I just thought there was something going there, and for a while I thought I was dead on with the Eagles because they were just playing lights out. The Saints had a couple of weeks off during the season and then a bye week, so it was like not just like all the teams like New England and Kansas City where they needed to rest up. They were getting too much rest, and so they played really rough in the beginning. They were rusty. And it looked like that Philadelphia was just ready to take over, and they were just that close to taking over when that happened.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that the way the Saints are set up is that they, like you were talking about, kind of business as usual, cool under pressure. And that's Peyton and Breeze, because they're pretty much the definition of kind of house money type thing, right? Peyton always looks like he's calm. Like he's always like, all right. He's got the headset on. He's got his call sheet. He literally is always standing there like this, like blah, blah, blah. Just reading it off. Breeze is going through it, and they just stay and they stick with their game plan. They just go for it. So that was the best game for the weekend, right? That was the best game.
Yeah, I felt
that was the only one that was really close. Where like the Cowboys game started off, I thought the Cowboys had a shot. Yeah. It was like, hey, all right, here we go.
Yeah, when Dallas went down and scored and they were up 7-3, I thought,
I was like,
oh man, we got a chance here.
Here it is.
But then after that. Pretty much from that point on, I felt like it was game over, for Dallas.
Yeah, but all the other games, the other three games were kind of not blowouts, but they were kind of like one team was
no
in control.
doubters.
One team was in control. Right. It was pretty much the whole game.
Because
this game was back and forth. It was good, man. I enjoyed it a lot. So
yeah, because like I said, watching the Chiefs game, when Indy blocked the punt, I kind of felt like they were getting some momentum. Yep. But then when Kansas City came back and scored on the next drive, I was like, oh well. No, they're good. And, like you said, the Dallas game early felt competitive, but once they got into it, I was like, oh, no, this is done. They're not going to win. New England, there was never a doubt. And then, the Eagles jumping out to that lead. But then once the Saints got back in it, but then they never really put the Eagles away.
No.
So you were like, oh, well, they still have a chance. But unfortunately for Philadelphia fans – and, Coach Ray Caldwell, who's been on the show, give him a shout-out.
Yeah.
Eagles fan. Sorry.
Yeah,
Coach Ray Caldwell. He's
sorry,
been on the
sorry,
show.
Coach.
He's an Eagles fan, but they fell short. But it was a good weekend of football, though, right?
It was. It was a real good weekend of football. And now you've got the top 4 teams.
Yeah.
So now you don't have an Indianapolis or a Philadelphia in
Right.
there. This year you could say out of all the teams in there, everyone but Houston, because I knew Houston wasn't going to do very well. All of them did have the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But now we got down to it, and the top 4 teams took care of business, and they did it methodically, with the exception of New Orleans. And if New Orleans plays the exact same way against the Rams as they did the Eagles, it's going to be a different story, because the Rams got a rushing game, and thanks to the Oakland Raiders, who have given up Amari Cooper to Dallas, Khalil Mack to Chicago, and now C.J. Anderson, who was cut from Carolina, signed by Oakland.
And then cut again.
And then picked up by the Rams. So, that's one of the best late season pickups. And now they have a deadly duel.
Yeah.
And so now, you've got 2 running backs, and New Orleans doesn't have to stop Gurley. He's got to stop Anderson too. And Anderson had more yards than Gurley did.
Yeah. He had 123, and Gurley only had 115. Yep. So,
and they rushed for the most. They rushed for the most yards in, at least in
against
Rams
the Dallas
history.
Cowboys ever.
Well, yep.
What?
Dallas had never given up as many rushing yards
Well,
as they gave up on
did
Saturday night.
What? Really?
Yeah.
But they did it by 4 yards, and it was the Rams and the Cowboys in 1985.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
I know you guys wasn't around. I was in the Air Force at that time, because it was the year that
we were pretty young.
I was watching the game. I was 2.
Yeah.
I was in.
I remember that Cowboys game too.
Yeah.
No.
Eric Dickerson rushed for 248 yards.
Dickerson, yeah.
Yep.
New Orleans is the home team this weekend versus the Rams. They're hosting them. Who you got? Which way you going there?
I am going to pick the Saints, because at RC's at Black Friday, I had picked the Chiefs beating the New Orleans Saints in the Super Bowl. So I am going to stick to my guns. Kansas City Chiefs, New Orleans Saints. So I'm going to say the New Orleans Saints. I think it's going to be a lot more of a defensive battle than it was an offensive battle like they did the first time.
Mm-hmm.
This is playoff football, so it's going to be a lot more hard hitting and everything else. I'm going to say that the New Orleans Saints is going to win by the score of 30-27.
Wow! All right, close game.
Yes.
Austin, what do you think?
So I'll go almost all just kind of barely over. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it kind of will be kind of a shootout. I'm going to go with the Rams. Big thing is, everybody knows how much I love Sean McVay. I love their head coach a lot. I think he's a great one. I think he's going to be around for a long time. I think with the addition of CJ, I think it's going to be too much. If the Saints start off slow, it's going to be a wrap. The Rams just go pedal to the metal the whole time, and I think Rams are going to the Super Bowl. So that's what I'm picking.
So what do you got for a score?
Yeah,
you know what? I'll flip opposite. So I'll go 30-27, but I'll go Rams instead, because I think it is going to be a good game, and I think it'll be tight. That's one of those games too. If they both get into the 40s, I won't even be surprised. I'll be like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna go New Orleans. New Orleans Saints.
Is that for the love for Breezy?
Yes, because I've talked about it a ton. I love Drew Brees. I love Sean Payton. I mean, Sean Payton should have been.
He should have been your
the
coach.
head coach after Bill Parcells.
He should have been your coach.
Throw it in again. # fire Jason Garrett. Anyway, so I'm gonna go with New Orleans, but I'm gonna go 48-41.
You're going way high. Hold on, what is the over?
I'm going with a lot of points here.
What is the over-under?
I'm going both teams in the 40s.
Well, it's not 97, that's for sure.
Holy
or 90 or
so I'm going 48-41.
89 points.
Yeah, over-under is 56 and a half.
So I'm definitely taking the
You're taking
over.
the over this
I'm taking
weekend.
the over big time. I think one team almost